Here we rock and roll.
Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public hearing for July 19, 2016. We'll begin with a special order calendar, continued hearing items. Item number 1, 47237BZ, 2765 Croxy Avenue, Brooklyn.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. We had requested an adjournment.
Right, you wanted 8 weeks?
Yeah, if we could submit maybe the 3rd or 4th week in September, that would be great. We have some more research we're doing.
Okay, so submitting, let's see, so then if we work backwards. Oh, so October is a tricky month because we only have 2 hearings.
Okay.
The 14th is the, which one is this?
Friday.
No, 14th is a Friday. So you would need to submit by September 21st for that.
That's great.
Okay.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Stand 14?
Yeah, 10/14 for the hearing, 9/21 for submission.
Item number 2, 19649BZ, 12880 Allerton Avenue, the Bronx.
Todd Dale on behalf of the applicant. From review session, it's my understanding that the board was satisfied with a number of submissions but wanted additional photographs. The applicant did submit photographs electronically yesterday. I don't know if they've been
I didn't see them. We didn't see them.
in the afternoon.
Wait, I think we saw. Didn't you get it?
Can we put this on for second call to give us a chance? Because I really would like
Okay,
this
second
today.
call is, let me,
Yeah.
Michelle Carlo.
I did not
And-
submit the photographs, but I was told they were, so
Okay.
Okay.
Can you check?
I will reach out.
Which one?
I'm
Yeah.
also here till the last item on the agenda, so.
You don't have a copy with you?
Yes, we got
You
it.
have a copy and you can pass it up?
We got it this morning.
Oh,
We
you
got
did?
it at 9:25 a.m. We were all here.
Okay, that doesn't matter. We all have these
En
phones.
route.
And it was sent to
Yeah.
submit,
Okay,
right?
let me look.
I don't
Actually
get
came from Carlo,
I don't get
so I don't know whether it was at
email on my
Okay, so
phone.
Yeah,
once
yeah.
we do the photographs now, we're fine.
Here we
For the
are.
second call.
Yeah, so let's do this, come back in a few minutes.
Sure.
and-
Okay,
Yeah.
so second call.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Item number 3, 20262BZ, 950 Allerton Avenue, the Bronx.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Jacqueline Calcagno of Ackerman, and we represent the applicant for 950 Allerton Avenue. We attended yesterday's executive review session, and I'd like to respond to some of the issues that were raised. The revised landscaping plan that was submitted to the board, I know there were some issues raised about it. The plantings were not extended to the first parking space because the applicant is already installing 29 8-foot to 10-foot tall trees at the site, which is significant, and it's a costly undertaking to begin with, and extending it to the first parking space will require digging up the asphalt and concrete that's already existing there. It also would contribute to more site congestion, and it's not actually buffering any residential areas
Why would it contribute to more site congestion?
because there's less space to maneuver. It would be right up to the first parking space, so, and also in the winter months, the the operator uses this area for selling salt and windshield washer fluid that the community all benefits from. These things can't be stored inside in the winter months, so.
Okay, so, and that's I just want to look at, is everybody seeing where she's talking about on the plans? Sorry, let me just get to a
it's the
plan.
square
box
area that you have
No, this is the area that you had asked along Paulding Avenue if it could be extended up to the first parking space.
Right.
Yeah, you've got a square
Right,
box.
right.
That's the area where the sand, the salt will be sold.
Right.
Yeah, what's the square box?
That's where they
That's where they would,
sell the winter.
that's where they store
products.
the salt and stuff. Okay, so then we talked about instead having the fence with like vines or something like that. The whole idea is because it's not just that it's not adjacent to residential, either is the other planting on Paulding, it's just opposite, it's facing the street, and it's to make it a less unsightly appearance in the neighborhood.
Right.
So you're not just looking at cars parked.
I understand where you're coming from, but I know when we went to the community board, they didn't have an issue with this side of the street because they actually wanted visibility because Allerton Avenue at this area is very crowded, and my understanding was that they wanted it cleaned up, but they wanted to maintain the visibility from both of the streets leading up to Allerton.
Really?
And the
Why?
reason
Yeah,
was...
why?
There are sometimes issues. I know in my neighborhood, I've seen some beautiful landscaping that was removed because people are afraid someone's hiding behind it.
So in other words, so not landscaping, though, in this case, they're concerned about an opaque fence?
They're concerned about someone hiding behind something they can't see through in an area where they're going to walk at night, yes.
But do we think that that's the case
I don't know.
here? How do we know this?
It could also be a traffic thing, to have visibility at that intersection.
Yeah,
Right.
it's more of a traffic thing.
Like a blind corner? Yeah.
Right, so then you don't have to have it opaque all the way to the end. It's more like you would pull it back one parking space from the end, right? If you had opaque fencing, short one parking space, something like that, no?
I mean, I could see both points. If you wanted enhanced visibility as you're driving, I think you would want as much visibility as far down as possible. So not one spot before the corner, but you want to, as you're driving north on Paulding, you want to be able to see the lay of the land as wide open as possible. To see, especially with the curb cut being so close to the corner. So you want to see if somebody's just going to dart out of that curb cut and dart, along easterly, along Allerton. So if that's the issue with the community board, I can definitely see the logic of wanting that as wide open as possible, being a driver.
Okay. All right. Everybody else agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
With regards to Commissioner Otley Brown's comment to pay attention to the corner, we will most definitely have the applicant, when we do our comprehensive submission, make sure that it's maintained and there's proper plantings there, because I know right now it doesn't.
Yeah, and you've got some paper, like cardboard temporary signs that are all stuck in there, I think, like maybe for whatever you're selling in the store.
Okay, and then once this landscaping plan has the board's approval, we are going to submit site photographs that address all of the other issues, which include the removal of all debris and cleaning up of the planting areas, removing the banners and signs from the fence, cleaning up all of the graffiti, removing the clothing donation bin, and also, I know there was a comment about non-complying illuminated signage, and the non-complying illuminated signage has been disconnected, and it's been noted on the architect's sign analysis.
Did you say repair the wall?
Repair and paint the wall.
Okay.
Right, because there was a portion that was leaning, I
Yeah.
think on Williams Bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, there's collapsing fencing, wall, and gate that has to be replaced.
Okay.
And also the building needs to be painted, including the wall near the air and vacuum stations and around the storage enclosure. And on the exterior, of the wall, I'm not sure what that note refers to. These are visible in photos 6 and 8 from your initial photo submission. And also, the fence has to be either re-webbed or replaced, depending on the condition. And that signage has been removed, that's not legal signage. Okay. I think that was it. There's a comment about the storage sheds. Let me just go higher. There was debris on the site, so obviously the site has to be kept clean. Shabby vegetation, obviously, we're addressing. What are the things? Label plan. Okay. I think that's it. Anybody else got other issues that need to be addressed on the site? Okay, so is everyone okay with the landscaping plan as submitted? Okay, so then go forward and do the work and bring us photos. And when you do the photos, because often we get kind of a photo over here and a photo over there, and then we don't know what's going on in the rest of the site, make sure it's a really good 360 view where we're seeing everything, so we don't finally have to say, oh, I wish you'd shown us the part at the back, right? Make sure it's photos of everything.
Okay, yeah, and we'll
Okay.
submit a photo key showing.
And with a key, right, okay. Great. So, don't know at all how long you need to do that.
I think we'd like to request at least a month or two.
You're gonna need at least 2 months to do the work, right? So, how about, because we put this on for October 18th.
Okay,
Okay, so that means you'd have to submit proof that the work is done on September 28th.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speakers? Any speakers?
So are there any speakers in this? Sorry. I don't know that we can close because the work hasn't been done, right?
Item number 4, 52864BZ, 24002 Northern Boulevard, Queens.
Good morning, Sandy Anagnostou representing the applicant. I attended the review session yesterday and I noted the board's comments and their concerns. We will provide a detailed landscaping plan which shows the proposed landscaping and fencing at a different scale than the existing site plan. Since there's so much going on the site, I understand it's difficult for the board to zoom into those areas, so we'll provide a very detailed landscaping plan. Also, we did submit an operational plan and a narrative, but we'll amend that to clarify the parking situation, exactly who parks where and the number of employees, where the customers park. I understand there's confusion about that, so
Yeah, it should show on the drawings where everybody parks.
yes, there is, I did note that there's an area, asphalt parking, which actually doesn't show the number of spaces, so we'll revise that.
And also the parking beneath the structure, right?
Yes,
That was unclear as to exactly what that was and why it was.
Like how's that going to be used once the structure is built, assuming it's built?
we'll clarify that.
I have a question regarding
Yeah.
that, and that has to do with the clarification as to if that space below the deck will count as a floor area. As I'm looking at the definition of accessory spaces and floor area, it seems it would be, so if you could provide some explanation, clarification, whether it is, and if not, why not, that would be helpful.
Okay. We'll do that, Commissioner.
Thank you.
The board was also concerned about the number of cars which are parked along Northern Boulevard. We are proposing to add bollards and no parking signs, so we'll revise the plan to show the locations of that and also the existing curb cuts and the sizes of those curb cuts along Northern Boulevard.
Okay, with respect to the bollard idea, bollards are designed to be retractable, so you could easily install them and then ignore them because they're all subsurface. So in the places where there just absolutely can never be any parking, that should be landscaped with a little fence, like one of those little low wrought iron fences or 3-foot fences or something. So there's no question, no car can go there, because when you look at the aerial photograph, cars are parked everywhere. And including, you know, a little piece of the car is still on the property, but most of it's on the sidewalk. So the landscaping plan has to be clear, no parking here, proof is a fence and landscaping. And then in that front area where I know that there's going to be parking, then there has to be bollards that make it difficult for them to park on the sidewalk, so that there's enough of them. And I assume they're going to have to be retractable, I don't really know, or maybe there's a chain that goes across, maybe that's a way to do it. The bollard's permanent and there's a chain. I just don't know about the maneuverability when you have a non-retractable bollard in a situation like that on the front, where you have to back all the cars in.
So we will show that on the landscaping plan, and we'll look into the type of bollards that would satisfy the board's concerns. Also, we will provide a section through the entire site. We provided a section through the building, but we'll provide a section through the entire site so that it's clear how the site relates to the adjacent residences. And you'll have a clearer picture of what's occurring there. Also, we have to revise the plan to show the trailer structure that's sitting on the roof.
So what's happening to that? What is that?
I believe it's going to be removed.
You know what it's for?
I think it's an office space.
Office? So is that extension at the front essentially going to obviate the need for the trailer?
Yes, they don't have enough. They need more office space, more showroom space. I believe it's being used as an office.
Okay.
There were questions regarding the signage. So when we began this application, we looked at records, we looked at the building department records, we looked at the Board of Standards and Appeals records, and it's not very clear what signs were approved when, whether it was grandfathered, but I will carefully go through that again and see and provide whatever records I can find and an explanation to the board about what signage was approved under the prior grants.
You might be able to do it with photographs also, you know, even old photographs of the area. If you found something that was sort of early 60s, late 50s, you know, we've seen some pretty fabulous forensic photography searches here, so maybe you could do the same on that site.
Yes, that's a great idea. Also, regarding the number of cars, I looked at the plans and it doesn't really mention the number of cars that were approved under the prior grant. So we'll look through the records very carefully and photographs and clarify that. The commissioner mentioned something about explaining what occurs at the entrance on 234th Street. We'll revise the narrative description and plan and show what's happening there, Commissioner Chanda. And also correct, somewhere in our papers, we discussed something about a 2-story. I just want to clarify, this is a 1-story building, so we'll correct that. And and also provide more photographs. We did provide photographs of the site and interior, but we'll provide a 360 view with a key and provide photos throughout the site. Also, Vice Chairman Hinkson mentioned that she would like us to complete the comparison chart. The chart we submitted was based on the records that were available from the Buildings Department, so that's what was available at the time. We'll go back and try to obtain more records for other showrooms. Our other option is to go there and try to count the number of cars and estimate the square footages of those showrooms.
Well, I feel then you need to do that because the whole thrust of your argument is that you need the extra space in order to be competitive with the other showrooms. So you have to provide some sort of backup information for that.
And actually, there were 2 showrooms that are smaller than yours, so they weren't actually helping your argument. I mean, for me, it's not so much the size of the showroom, it's that platform with all those extra cars. I'm not understanding why that should be okay, especially with the asphalt parking area that wasn't shown having cars. Meanwhile, there are tons of cars in it. So maybe another part of the study is for a showroom of similar size, how many cars are parked on those lots in order for them to do business? And I know you have 2 businesses going there effectively, right?
Yes.
And how many of them have 2 businesses going there? Maybe that's relevant.
And then tie it back to, you make just sort of a conclusory statement about this is, the Chevrolet standard, but we don't have any way of understanding what the Chevrolet standard for a showroom is. So you'll need to give us that information and then combine that with what everybody else is doing. So, that your argument is we're a Chevrolet dealership, this is what we're supposed to do because of our dealership agreement, and all of the other dealerships in the area are bigger than we are, and we fit into this particular kind of box because of the volume we do, however you're going to craft it, but it's got to tie together.
Okay.
And it would help if it comes from Chevrolet.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, we do have some information from Chevrolet, and we'll submit that.
Yeah, it should come from them. I mean,
Yes.
it shouldn't be something you've made up, it should be something they've given to you to say, to
Right.
be our dealer, this is what you need to do.
Understood, yes, we'll obtain it. We have some information and we'll, directly from Chevrolet, which we'll submit.
And adding to that, since there are 2 operations that are happening, the repair and then there's sales of cars, I think it would be helpful if the narrative further clarifies as to how many vehicles are there on site for repair, and are they there for overnight, and how much space do you need to allocate for repairs versus how much space would be needed for sales of cars. And I don't know if these are sales of just new cars or used cars, and and so it would be helpful to get a little bit better breakdown of for a justification for so many spaces that is being proposed.
Okay, yes, Commissioner Shant, they do sell used and new cars.
And so the used cars are also located on the site, right?
Yes.
And I don't think that was clear in the narrative as to how one goes and sees the used car, and then where they are stored, and
that's
that also goes towards the operational circulation. So I think if all of that can be tied together, that can only help us better understand the application.
So that makes sense that if you're visiting to buy a car, new or used, it's not in the showroom, right? So, but you go into the showroom to meet your salesperson, and then they take you someplace. And it doesn't make sense that they would take you to the far end of the lot. It seems like they take you right out the back door to go see the cars, right? Or maybe right now they take you to the front, where they're all parked in the front. So how's that gonna work?
And are vehicles coming there I'm not sure how the used car operation happens, but do you bring your car and say, I want this to be sold, and then that gets checked on the site and then gets added to the inventory? Does that also happen? And if so, where is that in relation to the circulation and operational plan that you mentioned? I think those are all missing pieces.
We'll provide all those details.
Okay.
I had mentioned about the screening of the parking areas. Not just the proposed area, but I think the existing area should also be screened well from the residential, and we'll probably get a better idea of the elevation relation when you do those sections, but it should really not be visible from the residential properties.
And that's screening all the way around the site, really, right? So the landscaping that was shown on your plan is very kind of sporadic. There's just not very much. And I don't see, since you're up against residential use and a park, there should be, and at the moment, the site is relying on the lush planting on those properties, but it shouldn't do that. It needs to provide its own source of screening, fencing and planting.
Okay.
And then, part of it is with this proposed elevated deck, what you're doing is you're putting more cars up at that level where potentially the lights from the cars are projecting right into the residential use. And so that should also be in the section. You should be showing how what happens with those headlights.
And a lighting plan in general.
Yeah, and we need a lighting plan.
We did note on the site plan some notes regarding the lighting, but we can provide does the board would prefer a separate lighting plan?
Yeah, the lighting plan, it's not just where the lights are located, but it's the lumens, so you know that it's falling off to zero by the property's edge, right?
Okay, we'll provide that.
And then we also wanted, because again, it's trying to understand the impact of this proposal on the residential uses and the impact of the current use on the residential uses. So we wanted photos taken from the residential areas, looking back at the site. And then also, I'm just kind of reading the various notes, the community board had an issue with drainage. What is that?
It's on.
There was I believe on 234th Street, there was an issue at a time with, there was some flooding. That's not really owned by the property owner, but he said he would look into it. I have to see what was actually done regarding that.
Okay. So in other words,
He said he would contact DOT and see what, DEP, and see what could be done about that.
But maybe it's runoff from all the asphalt that's on his site. So yeah, he's the cause of the flooding. I don't know, now that I think about it, which way does the slope go? Isn't it sloping down towards 234th Street?
Going that way.
Could be.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's what's happening. All of that asphalt, there's no permeable surfaces. It's running all to 234th Street. So sadly, there needs to be trench drains installed. That's actually caused by your client.
So we'll look into that and get back to the board regarding that.
Okay. And then the other one was on the plans to show where the traffic sensor will be installed, which was something that was a condition previously, or maybe from the community board. I need to scroll up to see who wanted it. But it's an obvious thing because you have so many cars coming and going from this. There should be something there's a warning for pedestrians that cars are coming onto the sidewalk or coming out of the curb cuts.
Okay, we'll locate that on the site plan.
So, in terms of the signage, it's one thing to be proving grandfathering. It's a complete other one to be requesting additional signage that's in excess of what was permitted, or what is permitted. We can't do that.
I
You would have to
understand.
make a variance case for signage, and those are rare and hard to prove. Also, the way you're measuring the signs, again, if these are grandfathered signs, that's a different thing, but as long as I can remember, DOB always measured pin-mounted signs from the outside box, right? It's not letter E, letter A, and then you add it all together. It's the whole
Box.
So in fact, you're way over. So that's the example, the East Hill sign, which measures 1 foot 10 by 15.9, is actually close to 30 square feet, and you show it as 9.5 square feet. Because you're measuring EA, you know.
Okay, we'll revise those calculations.
Okay. And Commissioner Montanez had asked to verify the employee counts. Your statement of facts says there are 14 employees, but it's a big operation, so it didn't seem to make sense.
Okay,
Also, that your compliance chart claims that everything complies, but in fact,
It doesn't.
that's part of the point. You don't have the landscaping, you don't have the parking for employees. So it should reflect the reality of compliance. Discuss the use, Commissioner Shonda asked about the entrance from 234th Street. What's going to happen there? Okay, and I think that's it. Anybody else? Any other issues? Are there any speakers on this? Okay. So, I think you're going to need some time.
at least 8 weeks, I would say.
Okay, so where are we, July? So you could come on October 14th and submit September 21. I think that's enough time?
That's 2 months.
That's 2 solid months. Do you want more time?
I think that should work.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. You got that, Tony?
Item number 5, 120766BZ, 305 Washington Avenue, Brooklyn.
Morning, Carl Safaro, applicant. You should have photos of the completed sprinkler extension. My understanding is that the sprinkler work type was signed off by the building department last week, and we're arranging a fire department witnessed hydrostatic test, which is also required
Great.
for completion.
So I think this is really terrific that this was done. It's going to make the building
I
much
think so, too.
safer. So, and I just would like fire department to weigh in if they're okay with, because I'd like to just close this. But if the fire department wants to wait for, they passed the test at DOB.
Well, that's a self-certified test. That's where the plumber or the installer
Just checks
the
that.
strength of OP 38, 39
Okay.
certification that they perform.
No,
But
okay.
it's not witnessed.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Anthony Scaduto, Fire Department. Yeah, just to confirm, as Mr. Sparrow said, the building department signs off on the installation, the engineering portion, and the fire department signs off on the actual performance testing. So we're very satisfied, we're happy that now the entire building is sprinkled, and what I'll do is just to,
It's the space, not the entire building.
I'm sorry, the space.
It's just the retail space that's
the bookstore.
underneath the multiple dwelling
The
units.
bookstore.
Right.
I'm sorry. And basically, I'll just confirm that the fire department moves ahead with scheduling the actual performance test, but we have no objection if the board chooses to close and
Okay,
vote.
because you're aware of it, you know.
We're
that-
aware of it.
Right, okay, good.
And put Mr. Safaro in contact with our suppression unit in terms of finalizing the testing procedures.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Are there any speakers on this? Any other comments, questions, anything? Okay, so I would like to bring this to a close.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Chandra?
Aye. And also a motion to grant.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown? Aye. Commissioner Chandra?
Aye. Great.
Thank you very
Thank you very much.
New cases, item number 6, 41350BZ, 691 East 149th Street, the Bronx.
Hello, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Eric Palatnik.
Morning.
Hi. We attended your review session yesterday, and if acceptable to the board, I could address the items that we heard, and if we missed anything, you could let us know. The first thing is, the biggest issue was the parking lot, the out parcel. So the last set of plans that we submitted to your board should show that the plans are marked out parcel. It's not a part of the application. There was a Department of Buildings approval for that many years ago. And we will amend our statement or our writings just to make sure that that's abundantly clear that it's not a part of the application.
Okay. Were there any other questions about that out parcel? So,
It was never part of,
It wasn't part of the BSA's approval. It was always a parking lot in addition, but I believe it was originally owned by the same owner and ran in conjunction, but that's no longer the case.
okay, and then...
There was a pass-through in the back. That they could.
was there a CO for it?
I don't know if there was ever a CFO for it, but nonetheless, it's not a part of our...
It was never described in the previous, anything.
I'm not sure. I'd have to double-check that.
Because as we know, once at the BSA, always at the BSA.
So just to, what was it you wanted to double check?
To see whether or
just
not
the
it has
Commissioner
been
Hinkson was asking if I-
included in any other previous grant. Once at the BSA, always at the BSA.
Is there any chance that you might be able to do that today? Since you're here the whole day, and we could put this on for a second call.
I don't know if we could do it
Okay.
today.
If you got a
appreciate the-
certificate, a separate certificate of occupancy for that portion of the lot. If you said it's...
I could
it's
find
been-
out.
Find that out right now.
Yeah, you said it's been a parking lot, so it might indeed have its own CO.
Yeah, let me do a little bit of research and find out so that we get the accurate answer for the board.
Okay, so I'd like to put it on second call also.
Well, I had the
Well,
other
I
question.
don't know if I'm going to be able to answer the question today for the board, so...
Okay, oh well.
I appreciate the moving of the application. Thank you.
All right, so, yeah, Commissioner Montanez.
Right, I just wanted to know if the 2 parking spaces were striped, and in several of the photos, I see vehicles parked against the rear wall.
No, they're not striped now.
Well, they should be.
We can stripe them now for
And you
you.
should put no parking signs against the rear wall. In one, there's a red car, another one, there's a truck, and they're not driving there, they're like right up against the rear
Got it.
wall.
And we'll also give you pictures. The fence has been removed, and there's a guardrail there now, so we'll give you pictures of that.
Okay.
And I believe yesterday the board had also asked if we could remove the stanchions, the concrete stanchions, and we can.
Oh, good, okay. The
so
ones
it's-
that aren't being used for anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I suppose maybe what we could do is, we have to get you the answer anyway to make clear on the CFO, but maybe we can get the operator to actually remove the stanchions now and do the striping now.
Okay.
And then we can come back to you with everything. Maybe after Labor Day, if you give us a few weeks. I
Okay.
can try and get the work done now.
Great, okay.
Are the hours 24/7?
Yes.
All right. So you'll also put the no parking signs.
Yeah, I have 5 items. We're going to fix the statement so we're clear about the previous application. That's actually 4 items because it's 1 and 2 for me. We're going to stripe the parking lot now. We're going to install the no parking signs by the rear wall now. We're going to put pictures of the guardrail. We're going to submit pictures of the guardrail, excuse me, and we're going to remove the concrete stanchions upon which the...
And the fence.
Provide photos.
Yeah,
Right.
And the photos of the...
of the fence removed and the guardrail installed.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Okay. Are there any speakers on this? Okay, so then, will you say you could submit after?
Give us till after Labor Day so I can give them August to get the work done.
Okay, so still puts us on to, well, we could put you on for September 27th. Does
That's
that
fine.
work? If
Yeah.
it's like a 7th submission?
Yep.
Okay. September 7th submit, September 27th here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to do the second call SOC before you?
Yeah, did everybody have, yeah, because did everybody have a chance to look at the photos? Okay, just give us 3 minutes before we call back. Quick break.
Do you want to take a recess? So 5-minute recess?
Yeah, that's fine. 5-minute recess.
I didn't get it.
Didn't get them?
You didn't get it?
You don't have it in email?
No.
Carlo. Okay.
Good.
Yep.
Second call item, item number 2, 19649BZ, 1280 Allerton Avenue, the Bronx.
Okay.
Good morning, Todd Dale for the applicant.
Hi. Thanks for sending the
Sure.
photos. I'm going to let the others speak first about what they see in the photos.
Well, it would be nice, I think, if when you are painting the areas on the brick wall that are just where the graffiti was, that you might want to consider painting the entire wall the same color. Just
So noted.
saying.
And then keep that paint on hand for the future graffiti.
Exactly, exactly.
It seems like it's just going to be a constant problem.
So, yeah, you're going to be painting
Very
it,
fair
just
comment.
make it smooth,
And to
one
just
solid
carry
color.
that through, because we have a history with this owner of, you give him an instruction and he takes it so literally, he only does it in that spot. And I've worked with contractors like this. Oh, you wanted me to fix that side of the wall? And I thought just this side was good. So when we talk about painting the brick, it's an entire wall. Once you paint, you have to keep going the entire wall. That would help a lot because the wall doesn't look so great, which was our problem to start with, right? So,
That's fine, it makes total sense.
Okay.
I am not entirely familiar with the history of this, but we'll be sure to communicate
Okay.
such to the owner.
and then there's this existing fence, which we really had hoped would be replaced. At the very least, it needs to be painted. It's this rusty, the site still looked shabby after all this time. That's, I guess, what we're getting at. And like the way there's a graffitied, you probably don't even have the photos. There's a graffitied dumpster with trash piled on top of it.
Right there.
So we were trying to go for a beautification program.
They showed us a picture of it.
We don't seem to
I
be
thought that
getting there.
No, I understand. I mean, these all fit in the same line. I think you said it very well when perhaps the direction should be taken quite so literally.
Right.
And more of a panoramic view to the whole site. I can definitely pass that on with respect to painting the entire wall, replacing the fence, and addressing the dumpster, and keeping paint on hand.
And I fear for this fence, I have to tell you. Did you look at how the fence is? Just check the sort of integrity of the fence that's mounted to the wall. Didn't they replace that fence? I think they replaced that fence, but I'll bet it was in the original drill holes And they just dropped it in.
Continued to mean
Yeah.
speeding.
So that fence, I think,
Structurally.
one strong wind.
No, I think those are fair comments.
Okay.
I mean, when I spoke to, obviously I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant. They were originally prepared to submit photos in a few weeks, and they were approached by the board, and I think they rushed to get these photos in. And I think that rush is showing in these photos, so they can definitely
okay.
address all of these issues in a.
Okay.
I
So
don't- it
actually,
shouldn't take
we
very
had
long.
thought that the work was done, and we were being asked to finish this, right? So then we said, well, how can we know that the work was done without photos? So,
Understood. I think there may have been a little miscommunication there, so I
Okay.
think they're prepared to do additional work for sure.
okay, good. So if you just tell them the goal is beautification,
Yes.
because this is, the grant lasts for a long time, and we want to get off on a good footing. And I'm noticing, now that they provided the photos, that their roof is, all the shingles on the roof are sliding down the roof.
I will put that on the list.
They should take care of that, because it causes damage on the inside of the building, not to mention that it looks terrible. Okay.
Well, they're going to convert, I think, one of the repair bays to a convenience store, so maybe when they do that, they'll work on the building?
Yes.
Good answer.
Yes.
Sounds good.
That works.
No, we'll definitely, I think that's fair. I don't know, but they're definitely prepared to make another submission with additional photos in a week or two. I don't know what the board's schedule is as far as submission times.
No, this one isn't to convert. This already has.
Oh,
In 1955, a building with a convenience store with 2 pump islands. It already has a convenience store.
no, it is,
It's an amendment.
it's an
Oh,
amendment.
it's
It includes an
Oh,
amendment.
right.
To convenience.
Really?
It's Dempsey store.
Maybe I'm the wrong one. Where am I? Yeah, okay. I think I'm wrong. Okay. Okay. So, how much time should we give them? They're gonna have to actually do work.
To do the wall painting and the replacement of the fence and the dumpster, I would not think would take as long. I don't know what the situation is with the roof. It seems like that might be a more involved process.
How about a couple of months?
A couple of months.
I don't know.
Well, the roof would be more as part of the
As part
repair
of the
work that
conversion.
would be done.
So if the roof is
Was
done
it-
as part of the conversion, the dumpster, the replacement of the fence, and the wall painting, I think they could have that completed within a week to 2 weeks.
Okay.
So if we did that submission schedule and then set a date corresponding to that,
Okay, just one second.
and if the board then would be open to a closing vote on that date pending.
Yeah,
Approval,
that was
okay.
what we were
Okay, that's fine.
trying to accomplish. Oh, yeah, it's a conversion of it. Yeah. Okay, so then, sorry. Let's say, so 3 weeks to do the work. That would mean photos on the, I'm saying 3 weeks to do the work, photos a week later, puts you on August 24th. And then that would give you September 13th hearing. Sound good?
Sure.
Okay.
8/24 and 9/13.
Yeah, you might want to go help them paint.
I'll change first.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, I forgot to ask, are there any speakers on this? No, okay.
Item number 7, 30208BZ, 4368 Furman Avenue, the Bronx. This is a remand from the court.
Good morning, Todd Dale for the applicant. So first, I'd like to thank a lot of board staff for helping with this. It's been a long time since this case was before the board, and I appreciate everybody's efforts in sort of reassembling this case file. From the review session yesterday, it really comes down to the key issues with respect to the B finding and the feasibility analysis that was presented. A couple of points about that. First, we've reached out to that firm. I don't believe that firm is still doing analysis. So it would be difficult to get an amendment to this work from 2008.
Right.
And I know it was done, there were very different standards back in 2008, and a lot of the figures were based on 2008 sales. But bigger picture, I think an excellent point was made, and it really wasn't included in the papers because when this was first before the board, we got stuck on the A finding and only the A finding. But I think the key point that was made, the fact that this would be an 11-foot wide structure, and that just in and of itself, that would be an infeasible structure to build. I know we've had other variance cases before the board with smaller residentials where we haven't even gotten to a feasibility analysis just because of the narrowness of the building. So, big picture, I would want to point that out in addressing, issues with respect to the B finding. And then also, in this instance, since this is a good faith reliance, really one of the first cases that was before the board, in this particular instance, normally when we would deal with a variance of this, if it was legalization, we wouldn't factor in the building that was already built. However, in this instance, because it was built pursuant to good faith reliance on Department of Buildings permits, the demolition of this structure, we believe, would go into the fact of how unique conditions, cause difficulty with reasonable return, because the cost of demolishing what would be a viable building would factor into this, and that's not included in the feasibility analysis, and it really wouldn't in a lot of variance cases, but we believe it would be appropriate in this instance. So, in respect to the concerns that the board raised fairly with regard to, some of the confusion with the report, we would suggest we could reach out to a realtor to find, reports as far as, a narrow building. I was going to say we could do that, or demolition costs, or we could just address this in a narrative to the board, the narrow nature of the building.
Or haven't they addressed it at the testimony? I mean, if you just go on a little bit more, for example, what would be in an 11-foot wide building, assuming someone built it?
Very little living space, because staircases for a 3-story building would take up, I think, a fair chunk of that 11-foot wide space. I think that, depending on how it was oriented, we might get rooms that in certain areas were only 6 to 7 feet wide. I don't have floor plans for the as of right, but just the access between the floors in and of itself would make that a very limited space for living.
And so, for instance, the economic analysis looked at this 11-foot wide building as if it had three units with how many? Like 3-bedroom units or something like that.
Yeah, three, yes.
3 units.
It was 3 dwelling
3
units. I don't know if it was 3 bedroom, but it was definitely 3, I think it was 3 1-bedroom.
3 one-bedroom.
dwelling
So, all
units.
right, can you speak to what would happen in an 11-foot wide
In an
building?
11-foot wide building, it wouldn't be realistic to have 3 dwelling units. It would likely need to be reduced to at most 2, most likely one unit, which again would affect the reasonable, or the rate of return that there would be expected on this, as opposed to 3 units renting or selling just the 1 unit. So that in and of itself would reduce the return.
Could they sketch out a complete plan rather than just a site plan and then pair it with a narrative?
Yeah, but I'm thinking, is there anyway? Or does that feel weird? You could just close it next week. Yeah, okay. So what would be good is, I don't think you need to reach out to a financial analyst, bring somebody new in. It seems to me that if you just talked about the building that results, because there is a site plan that shows the 11-foot wide structure. So if you just sketched out it could be really a sketch, right? What's inside? You have thickness for the walls, you have a staircase that needs to meet, well, it doesn't need to meet ADA because it's a single family, but anyway. You have a staircase, you have bathrooms, you have all those things. What is that?
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Right.
And I say, as you said, I'm not sure if it's in the record, but I believe a site plan may have been drafted.
Yeah.
This particular architect I'm actually in contact with, so we could work something out.
Oh, that's great. And you could also, for example, do a little bit of research on variance cases where you've done them yourself, where the houses are going to be, sometimes they were wider than this, right? 13 feet or something like that, where that was adequate for the board to grant a variance because it's not a viable house. though there is a 9-foot house in Greenwich Village.
Yes, there is.
But it's an anomaly, and it's odd, and it's a sign of real love that you want to live in a mid-19th century
It's also in
building.
Greenwich Village.
It's Greenwich Village,
It's the narrowest house in New York.
Right. And I think it still has the original moldings.
No, I think
That's
we
great.
can definitely address that in a narrative combined with a site plan or a sketch of a plan showing what would be in an 11-foot building, and then we can research other grants, perhaps comparing 11 to 13 and showing how that additional reduction
Right.
causes difficulties.
And I think with respect also, you didn't go in, because you had old papers,
Right.
you didn't go into the neighborhood character finding enough. Just look
No,
around the
agreed.
neighborhood and look at these, that was the issue about these little attached houses, right?
No, we
And
can
touching the
definitely-
walls.
In the next submission, as I said, like, this was really just a recreation of what was there. and
Yeah.
We're going to submit something new. We can definitely address through narrative
Okay.
the neighborhood character.
Okay, and, right. So in terms of the go back and talk about mortgage rate levels in 2009, I don't know
If you
how.
just wanted to rest on the infeasibility of a 9-foot structure, that's fine.
Yeah, right, okay, good, great. This one doesn't get public. Okay, are there any speakers on this? Okay, it's a remand, I just thought, why would the
It's
public
fine
speak on
after
a
7 years
remand?
if someone's still waiting.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, so, do that really fast.
The C-fine we definitely do quickly, and the narrative of the building we could do quickly. And I even think if depending on what we have with a sketch of the Senate plan, that could be quick. I think, depending on what works with the board, we could submit a week to 2 weeks. I don't know what fits
Okay.
with the calendar.
All right,
2 weeks might be a little easier, but if it's going
All
to
right.
delay things, I don't want to.
No, so I think we have room on the 16th, right? Of August. Ooh, the 23rd's better, 16th. Nasty, okay. All right, so how about you come back on the 23rd with a submission on August 10th?
So August 10th, and then August 23rd, return. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
great, thanks. No, we can't close. Okay, thank you.
Appeals calendar, decision items, item number 8, 300-088. 300-088A, 3935 27th Street, Queens.
Good morning, Ashley Helms, the applicant.
Hi. Tell us, still in deferral mode,
Yes,
right?
the owner's rep sent that letter. They're waiting for sign off from a different team before Best can sign off.
Okay. What can we do? So it sounds like there's a long process to make the corrections that the forensics squad needed.
I've done.
So,
You said 3 months?
He said 3 months, so
yeah, okay.
maybe
so-
make it 4 by the time Best goes out to
Wow,
inspect.
okay. So if it were 4, should we do it at the end of, oh, we can't do it at the end. There is no end of October hearing. How about November 1st?
Okay.
Okay, so, and the only submission is as soon as you get that sign off from Best Squad, so that could be on October 31st.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
great, thank you.
New cases, item number 9, 2016, 4129A and 4130A. This is Harris Lane, Staten Island.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the board, Eric Palatnik. We attended your review session yesterday, and we heard the board's questions. I think the most significant to the board's questions, which the board rightly keyed in on, is there's one portion of the site plan for which the easement, which has been created but not recorded, has not yet been recorded for.
It's been created?
How's it created?
Yeah.
Well, they've agreed in principle to, the previous owner, there's one person developed all of the lots, and these two homes were a portion of the original intent for for that development. It's wound its way, development's been going on for many years. It's wound its way through a school seed certification, a subdivision approval, city planning. And the original developer was involved in that. This portion, the easement, although it was created, was not recorded, which is what would make it official. It was drafted between the parties, but it has not yet officially been executed.
Drafted versus, not executed.
Exactly. So it's not, the problem that occurred is that evidently there's been some dispute between the original developer and the current owner over that one piece, which I was just made aware
The owner of that lot.
of that, yeah, which is that small little triangular, almost a triangular portion where there's an arrow on the site plan, which I
Not
could...
that small, critical to get to your site.
Very critical, very critical. I was of the belief that was supposed to have been,
Yeah.
it was supposed to have been signed off and recorded a couple of months ago, and when I called the attorney that's handling it, yesterday after your review session, he informed me that there was a problem, and he apologized for not educating me on that. So we are going to ask for an adjournment from the board so that we can finish that up, because of course your board can't act until we have full access to the property. If you'd like, I could answer some of the questions the board had now, or we could submit in writing.
Well, yeah, so just so that you don't duplicate efforts. So if you could, in writing, respond to our comments from yesterday. So the community board had a bunch of issues. The fire department apparently is taking a second.
Yeah, the fire department, I think, is okay now. They clarified the issue of the, where the no parking area is, which is on the new portion of Harris Lane in front of our homes, where the new parking would be. So I think the fire department's okay with it, and they had some 4 or 5 conditions that we've actually already put on the plans before yesterday's review session. I was going to give them to you, but we should hold off now.
And then, and then we'd, assuming there's a way to do it, we'd want a restrictive deck to commit the property owners to the no parking restriction and have something therefore that's enforceable against them, which is our new standard modus. And then we want no parking signs shown on the site plan. And then Commissioner Montanez had a question about what happens, where does the parking...
I saw that for the adjacent owner that's
Because they're parking
with the
there in
shed.
that little strip.
They have, that was never their allowable parking. Their approved parking is their driveway, is their
I don't
approved.
think their driveway's developed, but
Should be.
if you could clarify that.
We'll clarify that.
Okay. All right, so, sorry.
God bless you.
Are there any other questions that should be addressed at the next hearing? Okay. Are there any speakers on this? Okay. All right, so you're going to need some time to work out
Yeah,
your easement.
if we could maybe mimic the calendar you'd given me earlier, September 21st, with, if you have it available, with October 14th.
Yep,
That's acceptable.
that works. September 21 submit, October 14th hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zoning calendar, decision items, item number 10, 30-14BZ, 6101 16th Avenue, Brooklyn.
Good afternoon, Jay Goldstein for the applicant.
Yeah, I think we need to reopen this to have a conversation, right? Because we're talking about buses. So even though we're still waiting on air quality and traffic decision. So for a motion to reopen?
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Oakley Brown? Aye. Commissioner Chanda?
Aye. Okay.
I understand that Commissioner Montanez drove past the site and saw that there were buses double parked. So it's the summertime now, and the school, regular school bus operator is not at the school. There's summer camps within the neighborhood, and summer camps have been coming to this school to use one of the auditoriums for puppet shows and various activities. I called them yesterday and expressed no uncertain terms that there should be no double parking or buses parked in the street, and they were unaware of what was going on, and I know it's hard to tell, but the buses were associated with other schools and other buildings. So if you look on the side of the building, I know it's impossible to tell, but they'll monitor now and ensure that it's not there. I apologize.
Yes, sir.
And with regards to DEP, all of the submissions for air quality and DOT submissions were made, and we're waiting for their responses.
Did you give us a location where?
Yeah, we gave two letters indicating a location and their intent to have bus parking
And you checked that it was legal?
Yes.
In those locations?
Yeah.
And that includes during the day and at night?
That'll include the buses off of the street as requested by the board.
Okay, and then we just have to find out who all those other guys are with the buses.
It's,
Okay, all right, so I guess we can close this again, having answered that
Chair Promoter?
question. Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown? Aye. Commissioner Chanda?
Aye.
thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know, it's unfortunate this goes,
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's going to take.
Is September 13th still available? It should be, we submitted about a week ago and on the air quality, and DOT was submitted a while ago. I think it's a 20-day turnaround. So if we can do, if September 13th is available, that'd be great.
20-day turnaround, but are we finding anything?
That'll give us about a month and a half, 2 months to work, so.
Okay, all right, so September 13th. And submit,
I
we're just
shouldn't have
looking for
anything
their
to submit.
sign off, so submit by, say, September 7th.
There's nothing for me to submit.
Or-
but-
Oh, no, okay, yeah, we're just waiting for sign
Okay,
off.
thank you very much.
Right, okay, thank you.
Item number 11, 26914BZ, 8944 Metropolitan Avenue, Queens.
Good morning, Sandy Anagnostu, representing the applicant.
Okay. My notes say that this was closed, but that doesn't make sense.
It was, yeah.
Why come we close this? I don't understand that because we were asking about the circulation. I think we need to reopen it. I don't know why we closed it.
Reopen.
Yeah, so for a motion to reopen,
Chair Promoter?
aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown? Aye. Commissioner Chanda?
Aye. So, and I guess the reason that I wanted to reopen is maybe we only saw the circulation diagram now, I'm not sure, but it shows only 14 feet for 2 cars to bypass for entry egress. And the diagram doesn't look like the cars can pass each other. So I was suggesting that two of those parallel spaces be eliminated. What does everybody else think? Did they have a chance to look at that? It's just that the diagram shows the car waiting to pass. So,
You mean the neck and the back?
yeah. And then if somebody's parallel parking, and they're actually parallel parking because they're not just driving into the spot, right? Then while everybody's waiting for the person to go back and forth, and they're a bad parallel parker, then there's a buildup into the street. No?
Calling up. I think that the space where, behind the building, where it's showing 2 cars, I mean, the
Could you speak louder?
I'm sorry. So as one approaches the driveway, when making that left turn, that particular lane is long enough for vehicles to wait in queue, and it's not, again, I don't think at a given time, all vehicles will be in motion in terms of entering, exiting. So there will be possibilities for the vehicles to wait for another vehicle to pass from that pinched area, and that's only for 2 cars, all the way in the back. So
All the way in the back,
I would say
back in here?
the one.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that. No, I'm not talking about the necked-in area. I'm talking about the approach, the entry, where there's a 14 feet, at the entry,
Okay.
there's the 2 parking spaces on either side of the entry, and then there's 14 feet between the parking spaces. I think it says 14
13 feet, 11.
Yeah, okay. So that's what I'm talking about, where the, what do you call, circulation plan treats it as if there's only 1 lane. So if I'm a bad parallel parker, which trust me, and I unfortunately have to park in space 12, everybody's going to be waiting for me for a while. And
We're not going to like you a whole lot.
but that's different. If you're just waiting for me, that's one thing, but you're going to be waiting for me on the sidewalk. That's why I was thinking all that trouble's being caused by spots 14 and 15.
Got rid of those, you'd have enough.
Yeah, then you
Space
could,
to
then somebody
go in
who's
and out.
pulling in on the curb could at least pull sort of over to allow passing.
How many employee parking spaces of this total, how many are employee parking spaces?
They have 10 existing, and they're proposing 5 more. And 10's required, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, that was approved by the Department of Buildings.
right. So it's 5 additional.
You could get rid of 14 and 15.
It's just,
If you got rid of spaces 14 and 15, it would allow somebody to make that corner around and not have to wait for the person who's coming in. Also, your cars on 14 and 15 are going to be facing towards opposing traffic coming out, so that might be a problem.
right, everybody's backing out of the story.
So just for the sanity of drivers, you might want to give them some more room.
Well, all of those ones along there parallel are backing out.
True, but if you're coming back this way and this guy's facing forward, he's going to have to come out this way while this guy's
Yeah,
backing out.
right.
And
That's
somebody's
very
going to have
weird,
an
yeah.
accident.
Okay. So, what did
I was just asking the question on the employee parking, if it were, because then once parked there, the likelihood of vehicles moving in and out of that spot is going to be not frequent. So it's more as a possibility of using it as for long-term parking and thereby minimize the conflict.
But you still have a problem with space 14. Someone leaving is going to have to make it around the car in space 14, while the
Yeah.
person coming in has to make it around that person.
I don't want to own that car in Space 14.
That's,
Or let's just say, needs to be
a smart car.
a smart car or a rental car with good insurance.
In other words, it looks a little congested.
Yeah. So, I personally, I'm not the car maven among the group, but personally, I think that 14 and 15 should go, and then it'd be better. But then, what was the other thing? The other thing was about the fire alarm application. I don't understand why the fire alarm was denied.
An alteration type 2 application was filed and it was disapproved in October. And the fire department requested a copy of the approved Schedule A or building certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
I don't know why it was disapproved.
Okay, fire department will speak
But,
to getting this worked out.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Anthony Scaduto, Fire Department. This particular application was put in, the interior fire alarm was put in for a PCE, proposed PCE. But again, we're back in that catch-22. There was no approved application because it's not an approved use. So we are into that old problem. In terms of the actual installation, it's done. We have no objection at this point. If they're allowed to continue with the board possibly granting, they will have to then resubmit as an approved PCE, in which case it'll go right through.
Okay, all right, so that it was already installed. It's
It's
not like
installed.
they didn't wait,
It's just
they
that
waited.
this new procedure that we've been using based
Yeah.
on the board's requirement, it wasn't, the application didn't go in for the existing use.
Right.
It went in as a proposed PCE, and our system does not allow for that. Our system requires it to be an approved use.
I see.
So, once approved, it'll get the change in the C of O, and then they'll be able to resubmit all the same paperwork.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Okay, so what can we do about the parking space? Unfortunately, it's on the drawings. Okay, so
They submitted a plan.
we can close, yeah. But that's- Yeah, no, I'm just trying to do it today, but that doesn't work. Okay, so are there any speakers on this? Okay, so if you could just, if everybody else agrees, take off those 2 parking spaces and what?
I'm just sorry, I'm trying to recall, did the community board have any recommendations with regards to parking or anything?
Yeah. Community board only, what did the community board say? That's a good question. It says, community board's letter states that 15 on-site spaces are available for the PCE's use. Oh, that's just their statement. They don't have any comments. That was just their, whereas there are, like that. They didn't. Other
I mean, the reason I'm stating that is generally parking is an issue in the area. It's so, if that was made as part of the recommendation and based on that, the community board approved it, though not stating it, I just want to make sure that it's not going to become an issue with the community board if you're asking for a reduction in the number of parking spaces.
Only compromise I can think of is get rid of 14. Leave 15, because 14 is the one that's the most,
Yeah, get rid of the one that's on the corner there, so
Yeah.
that you don't.
and then there
Right,
isn't
that's
any
right.
parallel parking into 15, you just
Right,
drive
that's
into it.
So get rid of the one on the.
Yeah, all right, so just get rid of 14. Okay. So we can close this, but, and you'll just make that correction? Okay.
Yes.
So a motion to close, please?
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson,
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Chanda.
Aye. And if you could do it right away, we could have the next hearing on
August 2nd?
second a killer?
Yes.
Yes, second's a killer. They're all killers. Okay, let's just not kill ourselves. So August 23rd is the next available spot. So if you could just submit by August 10th. Okay, that work? Is that too tight?
No, it's not tight at all. I will actually be away at that time. I can submit next week, and then we can have the hearing August 23rd.
Okay.
That would work.
Okay.
Is it a minor change?
Yeah, it is a minor change. I'm wondering if we could just do it earlier. No, it's just more stuff. Okay, let's just leave it like that. It doesn't make any difference. No, okay.
But don't come into my office and complain that there's too many things off.
Okay, let's leave it like that. You could submit as soon as you want, but not later than August 10th. And the 23rd is the decision. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 12, 2115 BZ, 11235 69th Avenue, Queens.
Hi, Eric Blatt. Good afternoon, or good morning.
Okay. So, since we like that roof line, all that stuff, we're done. Yay, thank you.
You're welcome. The owner will be happy.
So for a motion to grant,
Chair Perlmutter,
aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson,
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez,
Aye.
Commissioner Arnold Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Chanda.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 13, 20415BZ, 98-100 10th Avenue, Manhattan.
Good morning, Todd Dale for the applicant.
Good morning. So I think we're all cleared up with fire department? Yep. So then a motion to grant?
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Hinkson?
Aye.
Commissioner Montanez?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Chanda.
Aye. Thank you.
Continued hearing items, item number 14, 33013BZ, 2801 Brown Street, Brooklyn. We have an adjournment request on this?
Right, and I don't know if anybody's here for this, but just to listen again, that before, the adjournment was requested for late September submission, but before that occurs, the applicant should meet with the staff to discuss the viability of a variance application on this. So we can put it on for then, but I don't know that it will proceed. So putting it on for September 27th. Or actually, no, they said a late September submission, sorry. Submission on October 14th hearing for September 21 submission.
Item number 15, 15214BZ, 673 Driggs Avenue, Brooklyn.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, commissioners. Frank Sejac, Sheldon Nobel, PC for the applicant. We have members of the applicant team here to present. I'll just speak briefly with respect to some of the comments at the review session, and we have the architect who has a visual presentation that they're setting up now, just while I make some opening remarks. So as I said, we attended yesterday's review session. We have the architect and financial consultant here to address issues related to their areas of expertise specifically. With respect to the written materials, we anticipate needing to make another submission, and there's still some design issues that the applicant team is working out with the fire department and the Department of Buildings. Again, the architect will speak more specifically to that ongoing conversation with FDNY and with DOB. With respect to the application materials, we will revise to include some additional discussion regarding the financial finding and the character finding as in response to Commissioner Otley Brown's comments. We'll also include additional discussion relating to the as-of-right scenario. The architect is here to speak to some of the process and the development of that as-of-right scenario relating to the LPC approval obtained for the proposed project. We'll also flesh out some of the site constraints that the architect will speak more about and include a map with the area study. With respect to the FDNY review process, just wanted to clarify for the record, we have not yet obtained sign-off from FDNY. The architect has been in discussion with the FDNY and believes that they've reached a sort of a revised solution from the one that was presented to the board. And again, he'll discuss
So
that.
different than what we've been looking at.
Correct,
Okay.
right, and that was sort of just developed and is ongoing, and we're awaiting sign-off on that piece. With respect to the objection, we noted in the statement of facts that there were different sections. As you know, the zoning resolution was changed in March of this year with the zoning for quality and affordability text amendment. We've prepared a schedule just to show that substantively those sections remain the same. They're in different places in the zoning resolution. We have a 18-page schedule to show the original the original provisions and the revised provisions. Ultimately, the FAR maximum in the R6B zoning district was 2.0. It remains 2.0, just located in a different place. The same goes for the street wall height, which is the second waiver being sought in this application. There's a maximum street wall height of 40 feet originally and remains in the revised provision. So we'll submit this formally to illustrate that. And I think with that sort of brief overview, we'll turn it over to Martin Finio from Christoph Finio, the architect. I'm available to answer additional questions as we move forward.
Please state your name for the record.
Good morning, Martin Finio from Christoph Finio Architecture. Okay. Can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, for the opportunity to appear again. We've taken into account the discussion from our last hearing and the review session from yesterday, and I just thought if you would indulge me, we could take a little bit of time to show how we arrived at the design that we did, and to hopefully demonstrate how the desired increases are minimal and very much in keeping with the context of the neighborhood. And as has been stated, we're seeking an increase in FAR over the allowable 2.0 to 2.65, and a height increase of 25 inches, which you should have been looking at that while I was saying that. Just to talk a little bit about the neighborhood and the context, this is the only landmark district in Williamsburg. The Fillmore Place Historic District was established in 2009. It consists of 29 properties along Fillmore Place between Driggs and Roebling avenues, and I think 8 of those properties of the 29 are on Driggs. It was designated primarily because of the Italianate buildings that were built between a period of 1850 and 1870 on the block, and many of them, or most of them, remain. Ours is one of 2 empty lots in the district, the red, dark red mark you see there, and it has been vacant since 1969, so that's 47 years it's been a vacant lot. As you can see, this just gives you a sense of the 2 elevations of the Fillmore Place street itself and our site. And this is a view from Driggs looking down Fillmore Place. So you see the, can you see my cursor? Yeah. This is in fact the empty lot, and that's the site from Driggs. So you also get a sense of the context, the 4-story building here, 4-story building on Driggs. Prior to being vacant, the site was occupied by the Minerva Toy Company. And I'll show you in a little bit just how our proposal takes most of its cues from this building that existed there previously. It really helped inform our massing strategy, which was approved by the Landmark Council. The author Henry Miller was a one-time resident at 662 Driggs, which is in the historic district in the 1890s, and he writes very fondly of life on Fillmore Place in his book Tropic of Capricorn. And it was through his writing also that we have reason to believe that before this was the Minerva Toy Factory, there was a saloon here. There was a 1971 memoir that he wrote in the New York Times. He writes about being sent over as a small boy in the 1890s to the saloon across the way at the side entrance to get a pitcher of beer for his dad, and it was called Rushing the Growler. So going from a saloon to a toy factory to a preschool seems like a pretty good arc to us. As far as the constraints in terms of the way we approach the design, for us there were basically, kind of overly reductive, but basically 4 main constraints that brought us to this specific design solution. 1 is the size and shape of the lot. 2 are just the structural limitations based on the conditions of the adjacent properties. 3 is the massing strategy as dictated by our landmark research. And 4 is just the specific programming of the needs of the school. Structurally, really we were trying to avoid the idea of underpinning altogether. I know we had conversation in the last hearing about underpinning, whether we're doing this or not. The truth is, we are in fact doing everything we can to avoid underpinning. Our engineer is frankly scared to death to go anywhere near the adjacent buildings because of their current conditions. The walls are simply just not very robust. These are 150-year-old buildings, and large parts of them have been exposed that weren't meant to be exposed by this lot being vacant for almost 50 years. So in fact, one of the benefits that the adjacent properties will enjoy by this new project is insulation. I think that the Driggs building, where 50% of it is exposed where it shouldn't be, will probably enjoy significant reductions in energy consumption. Let me just go back to this, stay on this a little bit. But as I said, the walls of the adjacent properties are not in great shape, and in fact encroach into our site on the south side by as much as 17 inches, so it makes a narrow lot already even narrower. So it's the sort of fragile state of the adjacent properties plus the encroachment of the foundations that forced us from a structural point of, to design a structural system that cantilevers over to engage with these properties. So this diagram just kind of illustrates that fact. If you imagine this as an existing structure in section with a property line, the typical way of building against a building like that is to build directly against it with foundations and walls directly abutting. But because of the nature and the quality of these walls and the encroachment of this building on the south side of our property line, our engineer devised a system where we have a kind of inboard column line, so that, and the floors then cantilever over to just engage without structurally engaging directly against the building. This avoids underpinning, but what it does do is introduce a column line in what is, again, already a narrow span, in a span that would never normally need a column line. So it just becomes another design constraint that we have to work within.
I don't recall you submitting information on this.
I think I didn't realize how unclear it was to everyone that this was the way that we were approaching this, so my apologies.
And so, well, maybe you're going to get there. In plan, where are the columns?
Yeah, I'll show you that as soon as we get to those proposals. In terms of the massing strategy, again, our strategy derived mainly from our research into the context of the neighborhood for landmarks. Ours is a corner lot, as I mentioned, and so as a massing strategy, it answers to very different conditions than the mid-block buildings. There's a certain stature that's sort of necessary for a building fronting Driggs Avenue that's different than these mid-block neighbors. But what's interesting is as we looked into this, we realized that the building at the opposite corner on Roebling had a very similar massing to the one that we're proposing. But in fact, in 1913, Roebling Avenue was expanded. So the building was originally here, but it's been moved back to this point. So the building had a one-story extension in between here that the landmarks report describes. The building was pushed back, and so would have looked like this, and is largely the way that we established our massing. And as I said, we took most of our cues from the building that previously occupied our site. You can see that the massing is almost identical, although the original building is still taller than ours was if you look at its relationship to the adjacent building relative to ours. But we also, we established with that fence structure the same kind of strong cornice at the top of the building. We established a kind of contemporary storefront idea relative to the original storefront. In this case, what we did is we took this idea of these vitrines that were facing inward and faced them outward at this point at Driggs to create a kind of gallery for student work that's going on in the school. And we established the same idea of the side entrance that the toy factory had originally. So I can just go through and show you a number of renderings of the building in context from Driggs, looking, I guess, westward on Fillmore, a little closer up from Fillmore looking onto Driggs, the entrance on Fillmore Place, and our proposed scheme. What I want to try to show here is that given a lot area of this size, once you introduce one stair and then the second stair and then an elevator, that takes up without any other circulation, 25% of the floor area. So we're already in a kind of constraint. And I know there was a lot of discussion about the efficiency of the plan. When all is said and done, the south wall of our property is the only solid wall on the property. We have well, I should say also the Fillmore side, but we knew we had to be one story at that side. So in order to maximize light and air, we wanted to keep the stairs obviously against the kind of blank facade. And one of those stairs by code has to deliver directly to the street. So where these stairs need to exist kind of presented itself to us. I mean, we looked at any number of other configurations, but this really kind of lent itself to the best use of the kind of open space of the lot. So looking at the existing situation, so this is the proposed scheme as we send it to you. I think, as you can see, what's different this time relative to the first time we looked at it is the configuration of the stairs. The overall massing is exactly the same. But what it does do is, as efficiently as possible, create the conditions for a classroom on each floor with some small support space. In this case, maybe the cellar isn't the best view for that. But we've really eliminated the idea of corridors, which is one of the ways that we established real efficiency within the building. There's just the kind of circulation space around the elevator and the landing of the stair, and then access directly into a classroom or directly into the support spaces on the opposite side.
Can you show in the plan where the columns are?
Yeah, I think you can kind of see them. They basically, we ended up pulling them out far enough so that they fall within the same line as the stairwell. So they're basically along here. Some of them actually sit in the wall.
So when you had the wraparound stair, where were the columns were on either side of the wrap?
Exactly. The walls that run perpendicularly off of that south wall were able to sort of find column locations. And you see again the idea of arriving from elevator or stair, having simply a kind of a vestibule space off of which you either enter into classroom, enter into office. There are 4 staff members outside of the teachers that will occupy the school. There's a director, an assistant director, an admissions director, and a combination custodian security person. And there will be, at any one time, given the 5 classrooms, there would be 10 teachers. So there's 14 people, or adults I should say, occupying the building at any one time. So you can imagine the support space necessary for them, even in this proposal, is very, very lean. We have a cellar office of 160 square feet, which is kind of multi-purpose, windowless meeting area. We have a desk in the front lobby that will serve as the assistant director's office. There is an office on the second floor for the director, and then there's a shared office on the 3rd floor you can see here for the admissions director.
The lobby desk is actually an office and not a reception type?
It's going to serve as both.
Okay.
Frank mentioned our conversations with the FDNY. I want to make clear that we have not found an approved relationship with them yet, but it was very interesting. Our well-intentioned idea of that grading at the top of the fence was basically a way to cook fire people. If you imagine there was a roof, or if there was a fire occurring at the roof level, this would basically just be an open surface on which firefighters are standing above a fire. The grill. Not a good idea. So we are
grilled firefighters.
Yeah. So we've been in discussions about other ways of approaching this. What we're trying to show is, let me see if I can get to it. Here's a classroom getting a little off topic, but on the roof, trying to make this mesh operable from the exterior. And in fact, this rendering is slightly not true in that this level would be at parapet height, so it would be about, I'm going to say 10 inches lower than it is now, which would create then a larger kind of screened area.
Okay, so the proposal is to drop this down to parapet height now?
As a way to
solid.
have this defined as a fence. I mean, I think that's a lot of what's going on here is just getting a kind of landing on how all of these parts are being interpreted, so.
But just to not make yourself crazy about
Sure.
that, it's not to say that you can't apply, because you did that initially, to apply for a waiver of the height regulations.
Right.
It was just suggested at the last hearing that if this qualified as an open fence, then you didn't need to include that because it's a permitted obstruction.
Correct.
But it's not to say that you have to create that as a permitted obstruction. We have here the authority to waive that height, right? But the issue came up in the context of access from the fire department, that normally they want something that they can climb over. So on other schools, those fences end up getting pulled back so that there's a route for the fire department, right?
There is that, but then there was the other, we were trying to just pull back from what we're asking for in terms of square footage. So if it is a fence, then the roof is not included in the FAR, so it makes it also that much more sort of minimal as a request.
So that threshold has to do with the parapet height?
Correct. If we're above.
Even though you have the cornice, as long as it's
Well,
below?
again, that's something I'm trying to get a determination on, how the structure itself, whether or not we can find agreement on whether that can be defined as fence versus
Structure.
Yeah.
Because you reduced your floor area by 800 square feet this time, and that was all in the roof.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And then, okay, so since the grill, which is basically above the heads of all these
It would
kids
have
in
been,
the
yeah,
rendering.
it would have spanned between these two members here
Yeah.
and been about 6
So
feet
now
long.
that's out again.
Gone.
So
And you're
we
gonna-
had talked about before, maybe that's what you've done actually, but I actually found the drawings kind of confusing in terms of where the heights of the mechanical, where the mechanical is actually sitting relative to your elevator bulkheads and your stair bulkheads, because you have a lot of surface area of bulkheads, right?
Yeah.
And can all the mechanical equipment just be on that?
It
Maybe
It is.
That was what wasn't clear about the role of those grates. And I know you're going to need service, so can the equipment sit on there with access to the roof of those things without extending the workers' work area? Is that what the reason for the grading was?
No, well, the grading that we had introduced was purely to solve the fire department access.
Okay.
It's purely about that. We've accommodated all of our mechanical stuff to the left in this view. It's basically above, it's on top of this. And it's in a permissible, it's all set back appropriately.
But it's sitting on the bulkheads, or it's sitting on another flying structure?
It's sitting on that bulkhead.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe I can.
But it's not like you created an additional roof. That was what I was confused
Well-
about. It looked as if you created yet another platform that spanned between the bulkheads.
Yes, and that again, I'll show it in this plan, which is this zone right here. Right, so here's the stair bulkhead. Here's the elevator bulkhead, and here's the other stair bulkhead. So there's just a space between the two stairs that we span.
So you did create a roof.
Yeah, and that's what's in, that's what, I keep pointing at something you can't see. That's what
That's what that
that
is.
is, right. So, I mean, it's very small. It's the same dimension as, it's basically that dimension right there.
Still created for.
Yeah, but it's enclosed on 3 sides. It's got a roof, so your floor area.
Ah, true.
Right?
Is there some way to lower that? If you just put it directly on the roof, it's just like a little notch, I don't...
Well, again, it's just floor area that then is not usable for kids. We're trying to,
Right. So that floor area right there, well, again, you're here for a waiver.
yeah.
So I'm not sure it's the most ideal situation to create this covered thing underneath mechanical, which was what we were talking about also at the last hearing. So, the kids are playing against something that's arguably vibrating, or I don't know
I think
what it is.
I'm
It's a
pretty-
chiller, right?
I'm pretty confident we can take care of that.
Yeah, and then the other concern I had was none of the drawings, none of the C of A comments refer to this, and normally the C of A is very detailed, goes through every single thing.
We're learning.
Yeah, so I'm assuming LPC wasn't aware of that.
Well, I mean, they were certainly aware of where the mechanical equipment existed, and it is in the renderings that we showed them. I mean, if you look at the renderings, they all have the mechanical equipment in them. It is just because it is within the allowable setbacks, it's not visible from the street.
Okay, so, but LPC is, let's say, their C of A includes, let's say, their C of A was issued based on drawings that show the mechanical equipment on this second level?
I won't pretend that I don't know that they had straight-on elevations and plans that show that.
We need that. We need to know that that's what LPC signed off on, or you have to go back to LPC and verify.
Can I have a question? As I'm looking at the rooftop mechanical plan, in that the fresh air unit is the one that's in question. Can that be moved to the stair 1 bulkhead?
If it's...
There is enough space in terms of the foot.
I think, well, we have the boiler there now, which requires an enclosure, which is what you see here. Right, so here's the boiler room. So we're putting fresh air here.
Where's the boiler room?
This is the boiler room.
I thought that's the,
The boiler room sits on top of the stair bulkhead.
stair bulkhead.
Correct.
Okay.
And the fresh air unit is just the unit, or it's enclosed in a...
just a unit.
And it doesn't have to be enclosed with a sound attenuation?
No, I mean, it would be on isolation springs and that kind of thing, but
And what's on top of the stair you're just pulling it away from the front, that's why it's set back there.
correct.
Okay, wait a minute. I guess I'm confused again. So then there's this sort of walk, so that little roof
It's basically providing access to both
is
of
an
these.
access.
Right.
Okay. So then why couldn't that be open as opposed to solid?
I
Or
suppose
is
it could be.
Is it, no, I'm just curious, is that when you were talking about children playing on the roof, was there some advantage to kind of a roofed over, well, then it
Sure,
wouldn't be
it rains.
floor, it might not be floor area, because it's enclosed on 3 sides. If it were open, I don't know what DOB considers
Right.
to be a roof. That's what we had talked about before.
I mean, I do feel there is some advantage of having enclosed, covered area on the roof. If it's sunny or somebody wants to get out of the sun, or if it's raining, it would be a way of just providing some shelter up there. I mean, again, we're talking about a very, very small roof.
Right. Yes.
And
But then,
And I can show you the other 2 as-of-right schemes, and just to give you a sense of how they compare to this. If you look at, just in terms of the straight-on elevation of our proposed scheme versus the as-of-right scheme that we presented to you, and then a third as-of-right, which I think we discussed at the last hearing, where we just take we do cover the full ground floor, and then use whatever left over as a second floor. So if you look at those axonometrically in comparison, they play out like this. And then the as-of-right scheme 1 has basically the same, well, not the same layout. What we had to do in this case, or the choice that we made in this case, was not to occupy the entire ground floor. The reason being that once you do that, if we want to maintain a 3-story Driggs presence, there's not enough floor area left over for the building to actually fit the 2 stairs and the elevator in it. It just doesn't work.
so, but the reason you wanted to maintain the 3-story Driggs in the as-of-right is because you think, from LPC's
Exactly.
perspective, that's the massing that would be approvable.
Exactly, and then I'll show you, so this is that scheme. And it basically reduces the number of children by 50%. The second as-of-right scheme covers the entire ground level, and then with the leftover FAR, we're basically only able to cover the entire second level. So And what this does is it's on par with the number of students as our proposed scheme. It's, I think, 70 students as opposed to 78, but it reduces the support space by half. So I think we can get 2 offices in this for a staff of 14. So while there are a number of things that, that it may very well do well, like it's got a much more generous roof, play area, et cetera, it doesn't have much to offer in terms of support. And I believe it is something, again, in terms of its appropriateness, if I go back to that, would not fly with landmarks.
Well, that's also using too much floor area, right?
No, not if we, again, accept the fence as fence.
Okay.
And don't include the roof. But to your point, it certainly would be if that can't be appealed.
Okay.
So that's all I have, but I'd be happy to answer more questions.
Can you just go to one of the floor plans of the proposed? So the original discussion about the wraparound stair, and I don't personally have a objection to a wraparound stair, and with the move for encouraging fitness and encouraging people to go upstairs so you can see them. So the whole issue about that was there was a concern about whether it was less efficient or more efficient, but in your plan now, you don't actually get more room, it seems like. So it's not, I don't think the board has any preference over a wraparound versus a standard
The DOB
stair.
does, though.
But that was what my question is.
Yeah.
So as it turns out, DOB would not allow
Right.
fire stair to wrap around the elevator, is that correct? So then the next question follows, how, does DOB allow you to egress as a second means through an occupied
Through the
classroom?
I'm not sure we're in the middle of asking for a reconsideration on that.
Okay.
My feeling is, our approach is going to be that because the majority of any floor is occupied in the classroom, and because whoever's in that classroom is always supervised, that there is that the safety behind that seems viable. That basically there would be no more than, in this case, it's probably the worst case, where there might be 3 people or 4 people outside of that classroom that would need to get to that second stair.
Well, but the concept is the fire is occurring in the lobby.
Correct.
And something is sort of, there's an instruction to stay away from stair number center. So others have to maybe get out of, for instance, all the kids are in the stairwell and they have to get out, I don't know, and they have to exit into that classroom and then go down the second stair, right? From the roof or something like that, where, that's it, they're on the roof, they're in that center stair, they're instructed to get out on the 3rd floor and go through and down the second stair, right?
Well, except, only one stair needs to open to, although both our stairs do open to the roof, but I think only one by code is required to. Although, that's a good question in terms of having the roof being occupiable by students.
So
Both of ours
this
do.
is really fire department domain and building code domain, but that's why I always understood you can't go through.
You understand correctly, and we're hoping, I don't see another way of actually creating a viable proposal here if we can. Because what it would require then is a corridor that leads to a stair, which would then really render any kind of occupiable space useless.
Right. Let's put them on 2 sides of the corridor. Okay, so that's DOB has to clarify. And then, I guess I'm still staring at this roof, the roof of the roof, right? Like, why can't the fresh air unit be pulled back on top of more of that space where the boiler is? Like, why can't all that stuff be sort of collected down? I understand the bulkhead is taller. You have like a step up there.
Where we have our stair bulkheads, we can't, if we were to eliminate that bridge, we would certainly have the area to put the equipment on, but it would fall outside of the permissible setbacks, given where our stairs are, because we can't fit both the fresh air unit and the boiler on stair 1 bulkhead without without allowing for proper access to the machinery.
Okay. So there's like 6 feet or something that you have to have around, 5 feet?
It depends on the equipment,
On the
but
equipment,
yes,
okay.
it's usually something along those lines.
Okay. Okay, what other questions did we have?
Can I follow up on that question? Is that a zoning requirement or is that a code?
That's
The
a,
zoning requirement is where permissible accessory equipment is allowable, with the 15-foot setback from either street, or 10-foot and 15-foot, depending on the width of the street. That's what we're complying with. So it is zoning, yes.
but it's also the work around the equipment is
The
trade
space around
practice.
it is.
The clearances
part of
are per the
Yeah.
manufacturers and/or building code, but the setbacks are per zoning.
Well, I was just, my question was if setback is per zoning and
We
that
could waive
we
that.
could waive that.
But would that solve anything?
Would that
is the question.
solve?
Because it seems to me the more you pull towards the corner, maybe I'm wrong because you've got a low building there, so maybe it's just as visible if you pull it to that corner as if you.
Well, I guess the
leave it
question is,
there.
what are we trying to solve by doing that? Is it the
Make
issue?
it, make it less
Covered?
visible.
Ah,
So, but I think actually, now that I think of it, because you've got a low building, it's more visible the more you
Yeah.
slide it over.
yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
I mean, if we...
And I guess part of the other one was eliminate the roof over that space. That was part of it too.
I mean, here, you're getting a little sense of the equipment here.
Yeah.
And that's the stair bulkhead or that's the
I believe
elevator?
that's the boiler room and the...
The boiler room.
Yeah, and you can see it again here. So here's the fresh air unit and the boiler room
Oh,
here.
that's not the bulkhead?
No, that's the equipment on top of it.
That's the equipment on top. So did LPC see these renderings?
Yeah.
Oh. So all you need to do is go look to see that the materials that were submitted to LPC
Are the same.
made it clear. That's different. Like, we could get a copy of those and if they make it clear, then I think that's enough.
Okay.
I just couldn't, they didn't talk about it in the C of A, so. Okay, so, fire department. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going through things to see if there's anything else that's architecture related. Okay, I think that was all for the architect that I could find. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else have questions for that? Okay, great,
Thanks.
thank you.
Frank St. Jacques, Sheldon Lobel, PC. So we have Barbara Cohen here, the financial consultant. We also, I didn't mention him earlier, Jim Heineman from Equity Environmental to discuss the noise and traffic reports that were submitted in conjunction with the EAS and the supplemental submission. So I'll ask Barbara to speak with respect to the financials.
Could I just ask you a question first?
Yes, absolutely.
The architect had mentioned about the cantilevering due to the foundation and not wanting to underpin.
Yes.
And I believe you mentioned that's really going to be also a part of your uniqueness, which isn't in the uniqueness finding. But in the first submission, for the first initial hearing, you did have plus $90,000 worth of premium costs that were included in the financials that you didn't talk about in your statement. Is that what that money was for? And we told you take it out because it wasn't in the statement, and so you took it out, and it's now not in the statement, which is fine, but now the architect's kind of confusing me because it seems like maybe it should have been in the statement and also in the financials.
Right.
So to answer your question, yes, we're ultimately in our next submission just going to flesh out that discussion with more detail relating to the architectural piece, the design issues due to the site constraints, and articulate more clearly that the financial burden that the site constraints and I guess the avoidance of underpinning creates. We chose not to focus on it in the last submission, and throughout further discussion, just in the past few days, we realized that we want to develop it further in the next submission to the board. And so obviously the statement of facts will contain more discussion there, as well as the financial and with some supporting information from the engineering firm and relating to cost and the actual specific technical considerations.
Okay.
So with that, if there's no other questions, I'll hand it over to Barbara.
Okay.
Thank you.
Barbara Cohen. I think I captured most of the comments that were read yesterday. To obviously correct the square footage numbers that were inconsistent there. So that was easy. And then the focus really was on the land sale comparables chart, which showed that I couldn't copy and paste very well. So it was missing a row and so on, and I'll clear all that up. The only question I had there that I just wanted to confirm was the adjustment regarding the zoning of the various comparables. So the subject site has the 2.0 FAR, and then the other comps had 2.43, and so I had which created more development potential, so I discounted that.
Right, however, because you're drilling down to available building area already in each one of your comparables, you're not doing it on a straight lot square footage, like 2,500 square feet times whatever. You're doing it on what could actually be built. You're doing it on an FAR. You're dividing it by FAR, correct?
Right, that's correct.
That's taking into account the differences in the FAR allowed by each site. That's
Okay.
being taken care of just by the fact that you're taking every sales price and dividing it by the amount of available building area that could be on that site. So if you're going to then do an adjustment for zoning, you really need to adjust for those factors of the comparable zoning that cannot be captured by drilling down to available building area. So things other than FAR, like use differences.
Right, no, that, right, with the retail was certainly
Right, so
had to come down.
that's what I was basically saying, because you're gonna then do a double adjustment downwards. It ultimately helps your case to not do that.
But I also, think in future too, in terms of what you're saying. But let me think of that and see if I have.
So if it's just a question of, can I put in 4.0 FAR of residential versus 2.0 FAR of residential, if you're drilling down to available building areas, then that's taken care of.
Okay, I see what you're saying, yeah.
Because your sales price per developable foot, because that's what you're drilling down to.
Right, okay.
So you're accounting for the fact that you're allowed more FAR.
Or then, right.
Okay? If you're talking about differences in zoning that are not quantifiable in that way, like use issues
that I
or
understand, yeah.
setback versus not meeting setback, height differential, that might give you more of an ability to put something feasible there, then take it out with also a zoning adjustment in your line item for zoning. That's what I was saying.
Okay, got it. Other than that, I think that was sort of the bulk of the comments, I think, was.
Yeah, it was just making sure your square footages across the board from page 3 to page 5 are all the same. Reconcile those numbers.
Right, so clean up and, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
It sounded more complicated when it got read.
So Frank Sajak, Sheldon Lobel, PC. With that, we'll bring up Jim Heineman to discuss the environmental piece.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. James Heineman, Equity Environmental Engineering. I did listen to the executive session yesterday. I understand there was some discussion of both the traffic work and the noise. First, with the traffic, I noted that you seemed to think that a no standing area for the school on Driggs Avenue would be appropriate. It would certainly eliminate concerns or address concerns about people either blocking vehicular traffic, occupying the bicycle lane, things which obviously we don't know what to do, and it also serves the purpose of, if this is established, it makes it very clear that for vehicular pickups and drop-offs, you do it on Driggs. You don't circle the block, you don't come down Fillmore, so it removes traffic from where you really don't want on a very a narrow one-block street. It's really not the ideal situation. So Driggs, given it's busier, you have more continuous ground floor commercial. It's a more appropriate location, and certainly a school drop-off lane there would make sense.
Would it be the full length?
Oh, no, I don't think, there's actually, I mean, we talk about how much we need. I think usually, there actually is a curb cut entrance into a parking facility for the relatively new building that's two lots to the south of us. I think basically from there north would be adequate to have multiple. You probably have 2 cars in there at a time, and given the staggered arrival and drop-off times with the 15-minute increments and the anticipated that the majority of people will be walking there with their children, that I don't think that we really would need more than that. We certainly would not want to displace that much curbside parking.
No, so I'm just trying to understand. Sorry. I'm just trying to look at the site plan. So you're talking about more than just the 75 feet in front of the building?
No, 22. If it's on Driggs.
Oh, it's on Driggs.
It's on Driggs,
right.
sorry.
So it's only, Driggs. So it's only
22 feet wide.
22 is all there is in front of the building. So what's the proposal?
Well, that's something that we would actually have to have these discussions with the Brooklyn office of DOT about what is appropriate. I mean, given our 22 is basically enough for 1, maybe 2 cars to come in.
Right.
So I mean, you're coming in from the curb, so you don't have to you can approach it clean, but it's not very big. But on the other hand, it's sort of obviously it's a trade-off. You don't want to displace more parking than you need to, but clearly there is if there is a need, you don't want you have to accommodate this.
Right. But in terms of the number of drop-offs, I mean, I know there was a discussion about a lot of people are going to walk, but a lot of people aren't going to walk. So what's the, actually I don't have notes on that. What was the number of drop-offs that we were talking about?
I think we had about 18 kids during each of the 15-minute increments, so I mean, reasonably, I don't think you're going to see more than a couple, maybe 3 cars. I mean, because even if you assume a relatively conservative that, if you have 18 kids and 20% of them drive, or they don't drive, 20% of them are driven, which seems to me a little bit high. That's 3 or 4 cars during that 15-minute period. So I really don't. I mean, 22 feet, given that it is at the curb at the end of the block, so you can approach straight in. You don't lose that kind of maneuvering space pulling in and out. I would think that.
Let's talk about the shifts a little bit more. So there are 77 kids per shift, right? In other words, there's a morning daycare program and there's an afternoon daycare program, each of which can accommodate 77 kids. So how are you figuring out who arrives at what time and how many kids arrive, and therefore pedestrian loads on the street with the strollers and the parents and all that stuff, and then how many of those might take a cab or actually have a car? Like, where does all this come? How did you figure this out?
Okay, well, based on the school operator's operational plan, it's really divided by age group. You have the 2-year-olds, the 3 and 4, a classroom of 2-year-olds, 2 classrooms of 3 and 4-year-olds, and then 2 classrooms of 4 and 5-year-olds. So you have these 5 different age groups, and really 5 different drop-off periods in the morning, 5 different pickup periods in the end of the morning shift, and likewise in the afternoon.
So and they're separated by how many minutes?
Well, they're in 15-minute increments, 8:30, 8:45, then 8:45 to 9 o'clock, so on. And as we detail, you have these, these 5 different classes based on the age groups. So that's really how it's designed to work, to disperse so you don't have everybody arriving and departing at the same time.
But there's also the hanging out factor. So one group comes out and that's the mom who actually, their kids were together in the school or something like that, and they stop and they talk on the street, for example. So then there's congregating. So how are you figuring out the congregating in terms of pedestrians on the sidewalk and whether that's having an effect on pedestrian circulation? Because you did look at pedestrian circulation on these streets and you counted Fillmore was busier, and actually the exit is to Fillmore.
Or right, the pedestrian, the entrances
Right.
into and out of the building is around the corner on Fillmore, correct?
So when you're looking at pedestrian circulation, and you're looking at everybody coming out in these intervals of 15 minutes, and I'm mostly talking about the ones where they're leaving, because then there's no rush, right? You've already got the kids into the class. Now you're off doing your next thing in the afternoon, kind of thing. What's that going to do with the strollers and the hanging and the pedestrian circulation during those peak hours? I mean, you don't have to answer this, but
Sure.
but you should address this.
Understood.
okay?
I think I would note that certainly, I mean, on Fillmore, Fillmore has very low pedestrian counts. So to the extent that that is an area to congregate, it's not an area where there's a lot of pedestrian traffic currently that is going to be obstructed. I mean, Driggs is a little bit busier, but certainly not busy by Williamsburg standards. And Fillmore is just a handful of pedestrians going by during any 15-minute interval. So it's not like they're really going to be obstructing passing. There's very little existing foot traffic on Fillmore, at least during these periods, relative to almost any other street that goes for more than a block. There's more people.
But so these ones have strollers, so it takes up more room, right? So, okay, but if you could just sort of beef that up in your, and address that in your report?
Sure. Okay, good. And I know another thing that people had talked about was the background traffic context, including things that are happening, or that are expected to happen. One that was particularly mentioned was this pod hotel development, which is going on a little bit to the north. And I would note a couple of points. First, I think, as someone noted, that given how small our project is in terms of floor area, it certainly falls well below the kind of threshold level where you require that kind of detailed analysis of levels of service in existing, no build, that whole thing. We really, the city has determined that's really not appropriate for a project scale. But I would note a couple of things about this hotel, since people did mention it, that might be worth noting. First of all, like I said, it's a block and a half, 2 blocks to the north, and it's on the west side of Driggs, whereas we're on the eastern side of Driggs. So to the extent that there is foot traffic, you would expect that some people, obviously, if they're crossing Driggs, it's because they're going to a particular location. The majority of people coming and going by foot, if they are traveling south on Driggs, wouldn't necessarily have a reason to cross the street. I'd also note, in terms of vehicular traffic, the majority of traffic associated with the hotels would likely be people coming and going from the airports. If they do that, they're going to use Metropolitan Avenue, which is between us and there, because that's the interchange to the BQE, which is a couple blocks to the east. So I don't think we're going to have obviously people will take a taxi to go wherever they're going. If they're going south and Driggs, there will be some, I'm not going to say there's none, but the peak vehicular traffic would be people arriving and departing, and that would largely be from the airports. Once they're in Williamsburg, except most of their travel would be by foot, which is why they want to be in Williamsburg, that area of Metropolitan Avenue. There's a lot going on, galleries and music performance spaces and so on. So probably why the hotel developers wanted to be there in the first place. So, and another thing which I think you may want to consider is that obviously we're a preschool, so we're busy during the week in the morning through the late afternoon. Hotel tends to be busiest on weekends with arrivals and departures, and then evenings, guests are going out for the evening. So there's really not a strong overlap between our peak hours of activities versus the hotel, which is primarily weekends and evenings. So those are all things you may want to consider.
Except for maybe the business.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously there are people who
visitors.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that nobody travels into and out of a hotel during the morning or in the afternoon. Clearly they do, but in terms of the peak hours of activity.
There tend to be evening is peak?
Evening and weekends. Weekends tend to be quite heavy because when people arrive and depart. But I mean, they're busy all day. I don't want to overstate that they're not active during the day. I mean, clearly they are, but in terms of their peak, their busiest periods are when the school would not be active.
Do you have any kind of actual data on peak occupancy?
I can provide some information from there's data about peak hours of operation. We can certainly supplement that with references from the literature.
Okay. Great.
So I understand why they want to revise the report addressing that, as all the discussion about the pedestrian congregating and so on.
Great, okay. Any other questions on traffic pedestrians? Anything, Tracy, anything else on that? No, okay.
And now, with regard to the noise analysis, we did receive comments last week from DEP. I reached out to the DEP project manager, and based on that, we made some revisions. And I don't know that he's formally signed off. We seem to be in agreement with what we had looked at in terms of the approach we looked at. I know there was some discussion yesterday about the noise, what we used as the basis for our projections. And the operators of the proposed school at Fillmore Place do have another very similar facility, Brooklyn Schoolhouse in Clinton Hill, and with a similar outdoor play area, the same age groups and the same number of kids. So that seemed like the appropriate sample to use.
Is it on the roof or is it?
No, it's at grade.
It's at grade.
It's at grade, although I don't know that kids are necessarily noisier on the roof than at grade, but it was the best, I mean, it seemed the most appropriate that was available to us. So we did monitoring there during
Just a question though. Is there a fence or is there a wall? Like what?
It's open. I mean, it's like a chain link fence or something. It's
okay.
not. There's no noise attenuation surrounding this play area at the one. It's on Gates Avenue. It's in Clinton Hill.
Okay.
So we did monitoring there. This basically on the sidewalk, about 10 feet away from the fence enclosing the area during one of their typical mid-afternoons when the kids were using the play area, and that was our basis of what the projections of the noise contribution from the play area at the school at Fillmore Place.
How many children were involved?
There are various times it was between, I don't have my staff members' notes, but I believe he said between 9 and 15 at a time he was there for, for the afternoon. So again, similar to the intended usage of the rooftop play area.
And what was your monitoring period?
We were there in the afternoon I think he was there from 2:30 or so to 3:45 in the afternoon, which, so that's during the afternoon they would be using it.
Oh, nice.
So they say that was our basis of the noise contribution from the rooftop, and then in order to figure out what the ambient noise that we'd be adding to, we went out and did monitoring both on Fillmore Place as well as Driggs Avenue. I mean, we do not have access to elevated noise receptor locations. Couldn't get in somebody's apartment, stick the noise meter out the window, so we did it at grade, which I think, if anything, is more conservative because although these buildings aren't that tall, it doesn't get that much quieter once you go up 2 or 3 stories compared to being way up high. But it's it does not understate the existing noise. And so basically what we did was we looked at the existing noise, we add on our contribution from the play area, and this is how you determine what your future width action is. And then DEP and the city have established what are acceptable levels of noise to avoid a nuisance, and also what is an acceptable increment in terms of how much noisy our thing's going to get. And they determined in both cases that we are below the thresholds that they seem concerned about. It would be below 65 decibels, which is for a daytime urban environment is actually pretty quiet and certainly acceptable to DOT. We'd be comfortably below that, and we would not be increasing the noise compared to without the project by 5 decibels or more. So we're under both of those criteria in terms of creating a nuisance or creating
But
a noise
DEP,
impact.
DEP is still reviewing some of your data.
Right, well, I expect that they will be able to agree with us, but I did respond, a number of conversations, then responded in writing on Friday, but we have to get their formal
And
agreement.
I have a question about when you take these readings. So as we all know, children, little ones especially, their voices are at a higher pitch. That's the level that we're more aware of. So we hear the little screams more than we hear low volume, or let's say low tonal emittances, right? So when you're taking these readings, does it somehow take into account the different kinds of pressure levels?
They do. Anytime you do noise readings for environmental review purposes, you use what's called the A weighting scale, which is designed to mimic the human ear's sensitivity to noise. Where frequencies, obviously a frequency that a dog might hear or that might like a subwoofer might make that isn't really audible. Those are minimized. So that's the way it's addressed by using what's known as the A weighted scale. I mean, certainly I would agree that different noises have different characteristics. You notice a new sound without it actually increasing the level of the overall sound pressure level is the term. So yes, you would notice it. It does not make things, quantitatively louder, but yes, you will hear children at play if you're close enough. But it's not like it's really, really quiet and then it gets really, really loud. It's sort of like.
But I mean, for instance, if it was,
it's
you
hard
were
to really
measuring whatever level you got from the playground, but the source was an air conditioning system that's in this constant drone, and it came to the same dBA level. Do you take into account that their frequency levels are different from the air conditioner droning along versus the kids?
I mean, the A weighting scale does to the extent that if the human ear is, is designed that if the human ear is more sensitive to higher frequencies, then those higher frequencies have a greater impact versus, say, a very low-level frequency. So when you set your noise monitoring equipment to measure in the A weighting scale, that's how it does that. I don't think it's really hard and maybe not appropriate for me to say qualitatively this is an annoying noise or a not so annoying noise. All I can tell you is how many decibels it is. I mean, the rest of it is really a personal preference, maybe. I don't know.
Personal preference? I don't know.
I mean, some people like the sound of kids at play. Other people it drives them nuts. I don't pretend to offer an opinion on that. So
no, and one of the reasons that I'm asking, and one of the reasons why this coming up again, is because the design is looking at removing the barriers that are really at kid level. I mean, right now you've got those sort of not protective, it's more like a design fence that's opaque, and it's exactly at the height of a kid's head. So you would hear less from them entirely, and if the proposal is to now make that open fencing, it seems then you would have a different effect on that arguably annoying, not annoying noise.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is actually, I think you're leading in the right direction, that this is, in terms of the kind of environmental impact, which is where I feel more comfortable, it's not an environmental impact the way DEP looks at things, the way the noise code looks at things. Certainly, if you put up a solid barrier, whether it's translucent, transparent, solid, in terms of physical properties, yes, that will give you acoustic buffering. Is it necessary in terms of impact as the DEP and the noise code looks at it? It is not necessary. There may be other factors that weigh against it. It will make things quieter, but I don't, based on the way this analysis has led us to conclude that it's really not necessary in terms of mitigating a noise impact.
Okay.
So your analysis was really the noise emanating from the roof?
Right.
From the play area, correct.
What about the play area on the second floor?
Okay, well that is a much smaller area. So the plans actually, we had this discussion. It's I think it's only about 300 and something square feet, and that it would be used. It's small, accommodate a smaller number of children. They actually said it'd be more like passive things, like if you're doing gardening projects. So it's less likely to be active play as it was, intended to be used. So
I figured it would be an entire class.
Yeah, it'll be 15 kids.
I mean, yeah, 18 kids, say.
18 kids. Yeah.
And then, I just wondered because there's windows right next
door.
Well,
in the analysis that we looked at, we actually, we assumed basically a 10-foot separation from the closest window to the kids, which is actually based on the architectural design. I'm not sure that the building that we were proposing would actually shield that direct line of sight, but as a maybe, worst case, we assumed that there would be a direct line of sight at a distance of 10 feet, which basically was exactly the conditions when we set up our noise monitor on the sidewalk outside the location in Clinton Hill. So, even based on that, which I think is a conservative worst case, the noise increment, again, based on the way the city looks at things, based on the noise code, would not be an impact. And again, it appears that our building itself might actually block that direct line of sight between the play area and the windows immediately in the building, the rear-facing windows in the building immediately to our south.
Just so I understand, the noise testing that was done for a similar school was located on the ground floor.
It was located. It was an outdoor. It was an at-grade play area.
Is it fair to say that noise at grade has greater impact on the surrounding than a noise coming from the roof?
I think it's how close you are in a direct line of sight. I mean, you could possibly argue that If you're at grade, then you may have more noise reflective surfaces if everything is paved, whereas of the roof, the roof itself has whatever the surface is made of, and then, the noise, it can dissipate more because you don't have, solid pavement in all directions. I don't know, we did not, I don't think, noise is noise, and a direct line of sight is really what the issue is, and maybe some effect based on the surrounding, the acoustic properties of the surrounding surfaces if they're really live and reflective, but I don't know that it would make a very large difference.
Okay. Any other concerns, questions for Mr. Heineman? No? Great, thank you. Oh, Tracy, anything you want to add? No? Okay, thank you. So I think, are there other questions for the applicant? Because then we have speakers, I'm assuming. So are there any speakers on this?
Please state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. Please respect the 3 minutes.
My name is Nancy Wechter. I represent the Fillmore Place Historic District Association. We're a large group of multi-ethnic, mixed-income homeowners and renters who live in the LPC designated district. I will try not to be redundant. As you know, our community board, our elected officials, and other residents have all weighed in on how the proposed project is inappropriate for this site as is proposed. We want to make clear that we are still opposed to the variance for the school at Fillmore and Driggs. And we feel the developer's studies in this new paperwork gave short shrift to some of the issues which we've identified very briefly here. We'd like to call the board's attention to the following list of things. We feel the traffic study claims that only 10% of caregivers and parents will drop off students via car or taxi. This percentage seems very arbitrary. We want to know, how is this determined? And there's no discussion they made no discussion of the lines of sight for cars turning left on Fillmore, but it seems like the designated drop-off point would now be on Driggs Avenue, which is right next to the bicycle lane. The traffic study did not consider the considerable bike lane traffic in the least, nor did it consider the speed of the cars on Driggs. And of course, we disagree with their findings on the 250-bed hotel. It will have a huge impact on traffic because there is additional construction going on, slated for 661 Driggs Avenue, which will have more commercial spaces, restaurants, etc. They filed plans with DOB. So the future is going to have considerable more traffic. It's also, as you may know, there's an Apple store opening nearby. Driggs feeds into the Williamsburg Bridge directly. And as you may or may not know, that Driggs Avenue, both east and west sides of the street, between Fillmore and Metropolitan, have designated truck standing zones where trucks load and unload during the times where the school would be delivering children in the mornings. And there's also a study of North Brooklyn traffic being done by Councilman Steve Levins. Data will be available in the summer of 2017, so we feel any decisions on traffic at Fillmore should wait for this study. The study of noise was conducted from ground level and on Gates Avenue near their other school. Gates Avenue is a wider two-lane street. Play space, as noted, on ground floor has less impact than one on a roof. And the upper stories of the buildings on Driggs are primarily residential. Economic issues. We feel as of right development is a financial risk, and that's just is not relevant. All investments are risky by nature.
Please wrap up. Your 3 minutes are up.
Oh.
Yeah, that was what
all right.
the
Now,
Bellman
one thing I really need to ask you is that since paperwork was delivered very late, we did not have adequate time. We'd like to submit more formal written testimony and possibly engage our own experts, especially regarding noise and traffic. And we have questions about about the status of the environmental reviews.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue this hearing, so you'll have a chance to submit.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please, if there's another speaker. No, okay. Okay.
Next.
All right.
Frank St. Jacques, Sheldon Lobel, BC.
I think the only missing thing, which I think was a comment from Commissioner Otley Brown yesterday, was uniqueness lots on the map.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, yeah, that's absolutely, we submitted a chart. We'll absolutely map those premises on a map to accompany that chart and resubmit.
Yeah, it just makes it easier to follow.
Oh, and also I had a question about the outdoor play area, because you took that out of the newest statement, were the hours of it?
That should be in there. We can certainly clarify. My understanding is that the outdoor play area will sort of function throughout the day. There's a number of different, there's 5 different classrooms, 2 sessions, and the teachers will take their children out as the weather permits throughout the entire school day.
Yeah, because you had originally said it was going to be 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. So then
Understood. So
I
we'll
didn't see it
clarify.
in this statement at all, so.
Okay, so we'll clarify that. I just would just make one brief mention. The intended occupant of the school does currently operate the Brooklyn Schoolhouse. She's been in education for a number of years and is basing a lot of the assumptions that go into the operation and the potential drop-off pickup, the operation of the school, how it might work, based on her experience with her current school and with previous schools. So there is a degree of guesswork involved, but it's an educated guess based on prior experience. And just one brief comment with respect to the use of, and we can articulate this and make it a little bit more clear in the noise report, the sound was measured of the children playing at the Gate School to create a baseline from which to determine, what potential effect the rooftop noise would be on the surrounding potentially sensitive receptors. So it wasn't a straight comparison between, a surface level schoolyard. It was essentially imposing that data at the site and measuring from there. So I asked Equity to flesh that out in the report. We do have a number of issues to address. If we could, look at the schedule sort of based on that.
Right.
Maybe sometime.
So, yeah, so there's a fair amount of work to do, plus we need clarification from DOB. We really do need to know about that staircase, and obviously about the enclosure of the roof and what it is and what the waivers are. So I know it's going to take a while to get the DOB response.
Right, I think, you're absolutely right. I think the FDNY appears to be coming to some sort of resolution. The DOB determination as it relates to the egress will be a longer haul. I think maybe if we look towards a submission date sometime near the middle or end of September, that should give us enough time. I don't have the hearing schedule in front of me, but.
Okay, so the ideal would be an October 14th hearing, with a submission on the 21st of September.
Opposition? Neighbors, the same day?
Yeah, so it's the same day for neighbors. So you submit your comments by the 21st of September?
Great, and we'll keep the board.
With the opposition requesting time to respond to the opposition is going to engage with experts to get any time for them to do that.
They could have another week or something like that. I don't think it should be more. So if you submit, what did we say, the 21st, then the neighbors, if they have additional review by their consultants, but actually, there's a lot of material now that the consultants could be reviewing. I don't know why additional materials are necessarily going to delay that, but they could have an extra week, say. So they submit on the 28th of September for a continuation on October 14th, yeah.
And sorry, just to clarify, that's the 28th date is for a potential opposition submission.
Yeah, exactly.
And would we have an opportunity to respond in writing there, or?
I mean, it's what we're talking about is no counsel. When we're not talking about lawyers here, we're talking about other environmental review. Then otherwise I have to put this off really far, and that's not going to be good. I don't want to put it on the 18th. Yeah.
This isn't a big federal case.
Right.
In the event that the choice is to either have more time to respond or maintain the hearing, we'd rather maintain the
Right.
October hearing
I think
date.
let's just leave it like that, and then you bring your consultant here if there's any open issues. Okay,
Fine, thank you.
great. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Okay. 5-minute break, please. Spilling coffee.